So tonight's demonstration is going to be about the quote unquote right to travel, right? This is a big topic in not just the Moorish community, but in a lot of other communities as well. Um, More so lately, you see a lot of Moorish Americans moving towards this type of demonstration, which we've always had the right to do and manifest and move in this capacity, but the demonstration has been uh, not hijacked, but it's been kind of the narrative and story around it has been kind of controlled by what they call the sovereign citizens. So you see a lot of people trying to exercise the right to travel, and what we're going to demonstrate on this call is our particular way of exercising that right to travel. Me myself, I travel this way. I don't currently have my vehicle because I just moved right in Ohio, but the car that I did have was registered to our particular temple, right? So with us, we have what's called the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations, right? The same way that the United States and every state has what they call the Department of Motor Vehicles, that most of their citizens register their automobile property to. So what happens is when you get a car, they want you to go register it at the DMV. You got to get the insurance, but you don't need insurance to register the car, right? Or you don't need registration to get insurance, right? You can just get the insurance. But to register, they want to make sure you have all these different things in place, and you got to get a license through the DMV department, right? The Department of Motor Vehicles. And what you're doing is a lot of people don't understand the DMV is part of the public trust, right? The automobile is property. What you're doing is you're pledging the property to the trust of the state through their department of the motor vehicle. It's just an arm of the state that you registering your property to, because most people are already registered to the public trust anyway through your birth certificate and your social security card. This is what allows you to participate in the benefits of the trust, because you become a beneficiary, quote unquote beneficiary, but they really have you in a trustee position. This is why you're held liable to the laws that they have on the books, because according to trust law, the trustee is held liable to the parameters of the trust. So this is where you become liable for what's going on with traffic infractions and stuff like that, and you're duty bound because of that instrument, right? That instrument, that driver's license, is the instrument. This is why when the police pull you over, what's the first thing they ask you for? Anybody? When the police stop you, what's the first thing they ask you for?
License and insurance.
Right, right. License and registration, please. And then they'll ask you for the insurance. But they want the license because they need to see what they first off the bat, they see when they pull you over, they already see the plate, the state issue plate on the car. That's jurisdiction. That state issue plate. Remember, the police work for who? The police work for the state, right? So when he sees the plate, he already knows that he has, you know, subject matter jurisdiction, right? He's already established subject matter jurisdiction because you have his tag on the car. Now, when he asks you for the driver's license and registration, he wants to make sure that the tag is still sufficient and that you are the operator, right? You have your operator's license to be able to move that particular vehicle that's under that tag. So you hand them your driver's license, or what's happening now with the sovereign citizens is they driving these vehicles with the tag on the car. Some of them replace the tag with something else, but they haven't done a necessary step already, because there's a necessary step that you have to do to take that motor vehicle out of their jurisdiction if it's registered. But they drive in the cars, it's already registered. They haven't done what's necessary. They got the plate on there. Then when they get stopped by the police, they cross their hands and say, "Oh, I don't got no license. I got the right to travel." How you got the right to travel? Where you're not, yeah, you have the right to move this motor vehicle because you already, got your license and stuff like that. That's what the cop is trying to figure out. But now you're hindering him from doing his job, and you tell him, "Look, I'm not bound by that. I'm not, I don't, I got the right to travel." But you sitting in a vehicle that's registered to the state that he works for. The policy enforcer works for the state that you got a tag on the vehicle that is registered to. You've already in the wrong. You're already in the wrong. You have no right. You waived your right already. The right that you think you have to be able to travel freely and not be bound by any of the traffic laws, because the car is registered to the state and you got the tag on it. He has jurisdiction. You already bound. You're out of place, because there's something you have to do first to take that property out of the trust, the public trust of the DMV. And then you have to, because what we don't do as Moors, but as Moorish Americans under the jurisdiction of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the World, French Hundred Moorish Science Temple of America, we follow the law, right? Because again, it's what our prophet told us to do, right? In this little pamphlet right here called Moorish Literature, right? Moorish Science of America, on page 9, right, which is the third paragraph. It says this. It says, during this section of the convention, all rules, regulations, and laws of the Constitution. Now, when it's talking about the Constitution here, it's not talking about the United States Constitution. It's talking about our divine Constitution and bylaws. Because as a religious corporation, as a religious society that has a corporation that we move through, that we're able to utilize to do our not-for-profit business, not as a 501c3, but as a 508c1a, which is a de jure religious trust, the highest type of trust that you can have on the land. I don't care if you got a family trust, you got what they call it, I have a what they call that other kind of trust. Um, I forget the name of it, but whatever, all these other trusts that people are creating, they still are bound and don't have as much protections as the religious trust corporation, because this is because of the First Amendment, separation of church and state, which really means separation of the state and religion. Not that religious societies can't create laws and do government and stuff. That's not what the separation of church and state and the separation of powers clause is, or the establishment clause. It has to do with the government not being able to interfere in de jure religious business. And this is why our prophet created a religious corporation, a religious trust, for his members to pledge their property under, so that it will be protected from state interference. This is very important to understand. This goes over everybody's head. This is went over all the Moors' heads, because now all the Moors got a problem with religion. I already see we got somebody that dropped off, because this is what happens when we start talking about religion. And I didn't even get to, the actual case that I have. I'm gonna get to the case and show the documentation for the case as well. You know what I'm saying? But this is what happens when we start talking about what this really is, because people don't want to have the discipline to follow. And this don't mean you got to be extra religious and you got to be, a hermit. And no, you got to understand the rules to the game. It's rules and levels to this thing. This is why I've never had an issue. I've never had to pay a fine. I never had to re-register my car, get a driver's license, get insurance after I had my cases, because the state understood my argument, which was, look, yeah, I got issued the ticket for whatever he's saying I did, but you don't have jurisdiction here. Why you don't have jurisdiction? Because you have no compelling government interest in my property, because my property is pledged to my society. And we went through the necessary steps to take it out of your jurisdiction. So when you run that VIN number, it don't pop up under your DMV. This is very important because they don't have subject when they see. So let me just show. Let me share my screen real quick. Let me just share my screen real quick. So this is the case I had. Right, I'll zoom in so you guys can see. This was back in August, March 31st, 2022. This was in New Haven, Connecticut, right? State of Connecticut Superior Court. It has my date of birth up here and everything. 4/14/1987, right? My name, Bey Akim Abdul Bari, right? That's my name, Akim Abdul Bari bin Yosef Bey, right? State of Connecticut Superior Court, geographical area number 23 at New Haven, April 25th, 2022. Certified copy, seal affixed. This is the seal. This is a bona fide document. And you can see it says that I did commit the offenses recited below. Count 1, traffic control signal, type A, class 1, on or about 3/16/22 in violation of Connecticut General Statutes number 14-299. They saying I took a right turn on a red when I wasn't supposed to. They also hit me with operating or parking an unregistered motor vehicle. Connecticut General Statutes number 14-12A. The third count they hit me with is illegal operation of a motor vehicle without minimal insurance. Right. And then the other one, the last count 4, was operating a motor vehicle without a license. If you notice, they nollied all of the charges, right? A nollie, which I have right here, a nollie is a Latin term which essentially means to stop prosecuting the case. Generally, a nollie is a favorable outcome and results in the eventual dismissal of the charges against you, right? Nolli prosecui, abbreviation, whatever that is, a Latin phrase which directly translates to not to wish to prosecute, is a legal notice or entry of record that the prosecutor or plaintiff has decided to abandon the prosecution of lawsuit. So they abandoned the process. And I only went to court. I didn't even have to go to court for this. This particular case, I called the courthouse and I said, I'm calling to check up on, a court date that I have to come in for. They said, what's your name? Gave them my name. They pulled it up and said, hey, Mr. Bay, this case has been dismissed. I said, well, can I get the disposition? Can I get the printout of paperwork? He said, yeah, you can come in and get the disposition. And this is what they printed out for me. And I said, I need it sealed. I need it, certified. They certified it for me and gave me this. Right. And this is not the only case that I had that this happened. Now, you got to think to yourself, if I'm driving without a driver's license, driving with an unregistered vehicle, driving with no insurance, and I ran a stoplight, why would they? And this is what, matter of fact, I had a court case where a similar situation, got stopped, charged me with the same stuff. And when I called to see what was up with the case, they actually made me come into court. So when I got to court, yeah, and if y'all got questions, just drop your questions in the chat and I'll get to them. Right. When I got to court, I walked up to the bailiff. I said, hey, I walked up to the bailiff. I said, hey, I got a court case today. He said, what's your name? Gave him my name, Akeem Bey. He said, all right, stand right there. He walked over to the prosecutor, whispered in her ear. She went through the file and folders, pulled out my folder. She looked at it. She looked at me. She waved me over. We walked into the back chamber, just me and her. This is before the judge even came out. Before the judge came, all rise, da 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 da, and he started seeing people. Me and her walked to the back room. She said, "So you don't have a driver's license and your car's unregistered, no insurance?" Like, what's going on? I said, listen, man, I understand, like, you've probably seen these type of situations happen before, but I said, I'm a minister. I'm a public minister. I use my car for I use the land transport for missionary purposes, right? And let me see. Oh, I gotta pull this up too, because this is what I showed her. Let me show y'all what our land transport ID looks like. So what I showed her, so this is what the plate looks like on the back of the vehicle. Notice what it says: religious autonomy, Moorish American Republic, right? This is our temple seal, and this is our Ministry of Transportation seal. Moorish Divine and National Movement of the World. And then we got the plate number with the circle 7 behind it. This is our national flag. This is our indigenous Washita flag, right? And this here is what our transport ID looks like. Mine's kind of beat up now. This is pretty old. But notice Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations, I'm the custodian, it has the year, make, model, and then the transport ID number, which is the VIN number, right? And I'm being totally transparent with y'all. Boom. So I tell her, look, I'm a minister. I use the automobile for ministerial purposes, right? We don't, it's against our religion to register our property with y'all. So this is why the vehicle is not registered to the DMV. You know what I'm saying? Where you going? Where y'all going? Where y'all going? For what? Huh? What's that? What? Oh, the groceries? Your mom here? Oh, all right. So I told her, look, it's not that our car is not registered. Because again, I didn't even get to this yet. Again, we follow the law. The vehicle's registered. It's just not registered to your DMV. It's registered to our Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations, which is a religious corporation underneath our temple that's on record with your Secretary of State, right? So, and I said, I don't have what's called a driver's license, but I have this is what I do have. And I handed her that instrument there, our land transport ID. I said, it has all the information that's on there about that vehicle that's not registered to you. It's registered to it's called a land transport. It's not called a motor vehicle for us. Y'all following me? Because again, during this session of the convention, all rules, regulations, and laws of the Constitution and such as might be enacted or ordered by the prophet shall express and explain in detail. Oh no, excuse me. That's the wrong section. So where I'm reading from is coming from paragraph 2 on page 9, where it says, the prophet said, he said, all officers and members of the Moorish Temple of America and any such rules and regulations of the Constitution shall be in writing. And here's the kicker: and not at variance with any law of the city, town, or nation which the prophet shall declare a law. So that means we can't make any laws under our temple that vary with the laws of the city, town, or nation that we find ourselves in. So if the city, town, or nation that we find ourselves in have laws that govern vehicular property, then we as well, as long as our laws don't vary with them, can have laws that govern vehicular property for our members. This is an instruction from our prophet Noble Drew Ali. So just like they have a police force, just like they have schools, board of education, just like they have hospitals, just like they have every law that they have on their books, we supposed to have the same type of laws that govern us as a people, because we are self-governing as a religious corporation. That's not a 501c3 that has to report to the IRS. We don't report to nobody. The Secretary of State, we don't report to the IRS. We are autonomous, meaning we are self-governing. We could create our own laws as our prophet instructed us to do. Chapter 47, verse 14, every subordinate temple of the grand major temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and to create their own laws and customs in conjunction with the laws of the holy prophet in the grand temple. We're supposed to be creating our own laws and customs. let me get to these questions. Hold on. Let me see. So he says, any resources for workplace retaliation and whistleblowing? Do you have to have your Moorish nationality established first? So yes, you need to have your Moorish identity established. And what gives you the right to do this is, again, your religion. Religion is protected by the Constitution, right? Article the First Amendment, right, which says Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So Congress, the highest making law body in the land, cannot make a law prohibiting the free exercise of your religion. This is why everything we do, we exercise it religiously. Because if they can't make a law prohibiting it, then there's no law that we can break while we're exercising it. Which doesn't mean, like, if you go out and do something to somebody, meaning you harm somebody physically, damage their property, or break a contractual agreement, that you can't be held liable. You can still be held liable, but there's provisions there. We already have a treaty of peace and friendship that outlines, some of these different things between us and them, right? But yeah, you need to have your understanding. I mean, your understanding. You need to have your Moorish nationality established first. And as far as like workplace retaliation and whistleblowing, I'm not sure exactly what you are referring to. But religion is protected everywhere. Like, if you because we call it a conversion. A lot of people call it um what are they calling it now? They say proclaiming nationality, or correcting their status. We don't call it. This is not status correction, or we don't call it status correction. It's a conversion process. It's just like naturalizing into the United States. So when foreigners come to the United States, they have to naturalize to become a citizen in order and be protected by the United States and enjoy the benefits of being a United States citizen. In order to enjoy the benefits of what we do and be protected by what we protect, you have to become a member. Like, the United States can't protect somebody that's a Chinese national or citizen. You can't protect somebody that's a German citizen. There's no contractual obligation there. In order for us to be able to help you and do things for you, and for you to reap the benefits of, you have to be a member, right? Meaning you have to convert. It's a religious conversion, which is the highest form of conversion, period. Like, nothing gets higher than religion in the United States, to be honest, respectfully. You know what I'm saying? Um, so yes, uh, they don't understand the corporate business dynamics of it. Yeah, so um, about the corporate business dynamic of the religious corporation. So by nature and by default, a religious corporation is it's a non-profit entity. It's not for profit by nature, meaning we don't have to apply for a nonprofit status from the IRS. The IRS already looks at our type of corporation as tax exempt. We don't have to apply for a 501c3. We already, anything that you're doing in the name of religion, your God, charity, missionary work and stuff, you're already exempt. It's just laid out like that. It is what it is. As a matter of fact, in the demonstration that's on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, when I talked about the establishment of a 508c1a, I go over the IRS document that exempts members, ministers, and Christian Science ministers of religious organizations and Christian Science practitioners from income taxes, right? But we have a document that the IRS says that if you have this document, you're automatically exempt from taxes. We have the document. Our members, once you become a member, you can, you pay a fee for the document, and you have the document. You can use the doc, you can submit the document, you can just send it off to the IRS just so they know, look, hey, I'm gonna be doing this. I'm tax exempt. You give it to your employer, it's already laid out and understood. You can attach the copy of the IRS letter and highlight the section where it says this type of document automatically exempts you from self-employment taxes, right? So the dynamic is that we're exempt. You know what I'm saying? Because which doesn't mean that we can't do business. We can still do any type of business we want. This is why the Prophet Noble Drew Ali had his own business, and he had members that had businesses underneath his temple, laundry mats, grocery stores, you know, et cetera, et cetera. He had his Moorish manufacturing company where he was selling teas, tonics, herbs, and different type of remedies and stuff like that. All of this was tax exempt from the state. You know what I'm saying? As long as it was, you was your own business. Now, if you go in contract with the European and with Walmart or this corporation or that corporation, and they might try to give you a little bit of a hard time and say, hey, look, we got to still pay this type of tax on you because you're working under our jurisdiction. But you may have some sort of argument though and say, hey, look, this is the document I have. I'm a Moorish American, da 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 da. This is how we, do what we do. And you might have a leg to stand on in that regard. This is why we're trying to get our membership back up so that we can have more members that are in these positions that want to use the documentation to exercise their rights in these different workplace environments. Because at the end of the day, even though you're working in a private company, they're still contracted to the state. Whatever your employer is, whoever they are, they have a LLC or a corporation that's registered to the state, and they're bound, just like the state is bound to respect your religion. So if your religion says, "Hey, look, this is what it is. This money that's coming that I'm getting from you guys, it's in the name or for the benefit of my religious corporation, my religious society," then they can't tax that. And it works out for the business too because they don't have to pay taxes on that money. They just pay you your money and you have it deposited to the temple, and the temple will cut you your check. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how the dynamic is. And yeah, I was detained. I've been detained a few times. Um, and yeah, so like, definitely this is what this call is for, is to really help you guys understand uh this particular dynamic. You know what I'm saying? Um, so again, let me get back to sharing my screen because I want to get into some of what all this means. So this is and you can purchase this particular ebook on the website, moorishholy.org. As a matter of fact, I will, or excuse me, moorishholy.org. If you come down to, or if we go to this section here, more, and go to shop, we have 2 ebooks for sale right now. Definitely would love the support. But I'll drop this in the chat. So you can, if you would like to purchase it, you can purchase it. But let me get back to the actual document. Boom. Right. So this is how to travel like a Moor with no license, registration, or insurance. I put this together myself, right? So it says traveling like a true Moorish American, exercising your right to travel without state contracts, right? So as a Moorish American, our journey through life is guided by our spiritual, cultural, and legal obligations. One of the most profound aspects of our, I put sovereignty, but I should have used the term autonomy. I don't really like the word sovereignty and all that, but is our ability to exercise our right to travel without unnecessary intrusion or coercive contracts from the state, such as a driver's license, vehicle registration, or mandatory car insurance. Because part of our law, right? If we go to in the Moorish Holy Quran, if we go to chapter 48, verse 6, right? Chapter 48, verse 6, which is on page 64, it says, "We as a clean and pure nation, descended from the inhabitants of Africa, do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale skinned nations of the earth." Now, when it says amalgamate, right? When people hear the word amalgamate, they automatically um jump to the conclusion that this means something like sexual you know, crossbreeding or, you know, sexual intercourse and stuff like that. This is not the only definition for amalgamate. It doesn't mean just to mix two races together, right? If we look, just this is just from a, a Google search, right? For the word amalgamate. Listen to what the verb says. It says to combine or unite to form one organization or structure. He amalgamated his company with another. So there's a legal inference here. So it's inferring something legal. So as Moorish Americans, the descendants of Africa, of the inhabitants of Africa, we do not desire to combine or unite ourselves into one organization or structure or unify our companies with theirs. So it means we're not supposed to contract into their companies. We're not supposed to contract into their organizations. This is why it's against our law as Moorish Americans, and not all Moors are going to agree with me on this particular um, uh, 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 interpretation. That's okay. This is for those that hear this and it rings true to them. If this interpretation don't ring true to you, this demonstration not for you, because it's plain in black and white right here on the screen that the word amalgamate has a legal inference. So what is the prophet talking about? Because as far as mixing races, he dealt with that in the next clause of this section where he said, or marry into their families. So we don't so that takes care of the whole interbreeding thing when he said or marry into their families. The part before that means or mix with their corporations. So we don't desire to mix with their companies, their corporations, their organizations, or marry into their families. This is why we under this particular jurisdiction, right? Moore's Holy Temple of Science of the World, Free and Sunday Moore Science Temple of America, we don't register our property to the DMV. We have our own we have our own organization that handles this particular thing. Now, hold up 1 second because I think I could find my plate. I can't find it at the moment. It's here somewhere. But uh again, we're not to amalgamate with them, right? Which this is the instruction. We're not to, you know, enter into contracts with them. This is why we don't have a driver's license, but we have something to substitute for that for members that do pledge their vehicular property to our ministry and would like to travel in this regard, in this way, right? Is that picture over here? I think it might be in this. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Let me send this. So this is a picture of my old car. Um, it was parked outside in the front of of uh my old house back in Connecticut. But I just want to show y'all, you know, the plate on the actual vehicle, right? Um, let me go to this email here, and then I'll share my screen with you guys real quick. I'm gonna eat a little piece of pickle. Uh, wait. Let me share my screen again. So this what my vehicle, this what it looked like. As you can see, you can see the plate on the back of the vehicle, right? Boom. That's the same plate that I just showed you guys. The seal on this side, the seal for the ministry, the indigenous flag, the national flag, and you can see the plate number there, right? And this is how I used to travel, all day, every day. But again, this vehicle, right, this land transport is not registered as a motor vehicle because we have a process that takes the car out of the DMV's jurisdiction. There's a certain document that you got to use that the DMV will supply to you, which again it's not hard. This is not hard to do, but for us, you have to be a member. Like we don't like. I'm showing you guys this thing because I want y'all to know and see that this is true. This is how we move. I just showed you the court case that I had where these charges was nollied and dismissed. If I was doing something so gravely disastrously wrong, the prosecutor in four different instances, because I was pulled over in Connecticut four different times. I got pulled over in New Jersey before, right? And just to talk about that situation, I was at a rest stop and I went to go use the bathroom. I'm coming out and I noticed there's a police officer at the back of my car, at the back of this car. He's looking at the plate. He walks over to this same side of the passenger rear. He's peering into the car because as you notice, the tints on the car is very dark. The car all black is dark. You can't even like at nighttime. It's hard to even. It was hard to see out of the car. Is you can't see in the car. Even the front window was tinted. Like, you know what I'm saying? Um, so he's looking for a little minute, and I'm watching him. I'm like, damn, here we go. I'm about to have an issue. And I'm like, I'm all the way in New Jersey. I got to get back to Connecticut. I don't want to have to deal with this right now. Right. Um, and so he gets back in his police cruiser and he pulls around the gas station and backs in on an angle where he could still see my car so he could see me when I walk. So I'm like, I'm about to wait him out. I'm like, he can't sit here all day. He gotta go do something. But I'm like, that he probably gonna call for backup for the next shift and they gonna sit there. So I say, you know what? I'm gonna just go. I gotta go. So I walk out to the car. Lo and behold, soon as I got in and I go to back out and drive off, he starts driving towards me. He gets behind me, and as soon as so he's on the side, I'm going this way so I could get onto the highway. He's on this side, pulls in and gets behind me. As soon as he does that, I pull in and park. And then he T-bones, he T-tails me. So how I'm parked in there, he parks on a T, so I can't like back out. He called for backup. His backup comes. She pulls up, but she didn't pull up until like about 5 minutes or a couple minutes after he, stopped. He walked up to the window. So he walks up to the window, passenger side. He's like, "Sir, you have you got driver's license, insurance, registration?" And I said yes, but the car's not registered to the DMV. It's registered to our ministry. I told him, I told him I'm a minister, you know what I'm saying? And the car is, I use the car for missionary purposes. I'm on missionary work right now in New Jersey. I'm about to go back to the temple in Connecticut. And he's like, all right. So I hand him the land transport ID, the ID I just showed y'all, plus my nationality card. Because we got a nationality card and then we have the land transport ID. And I said, this is the card for the car. It has all the information on the car. You can run the VIN, da 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 da. and I hand him my ID. I said, "This is my nationality and my religious identification card as a as a member of our temple." I said, "We're on file with the Secretary of State in Connecticut. The file number is on the ID. You can run the file number." And I said, "On the back of the transportation ID, there's another file number for the ministry that the car is registered to." So he's like, "All right, cool. Let me just I'm gonna go to my car. I'm gonna, do some things. I'm gonna come back." So he goes to the car. He's at the car for a little minute. This is when his partner pulls up. She gets out. She comes. She looks at the plate. He comes back over and he says, "Mr. Bay, um, was this the name that you were born with, or do you have another name?" And I said, "Yeah, that was the name I was born with, sir." I was like, according to my religion, I was born again. So yeah, that's the only name that I have or recognize. That's the only name that. He said, "Okay, cool, cool, cool. Respect it." Now, this is going back to what the brother on the call said earlier, that you have to use an intelligent tone. So when our prophet Noble Jew Ali, when in the divine warning by the prophet for the nations, when he said, "You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will render you a favorable reply." Now, the intelligent tone that he's referring to is not, "Oh, let me speak low," or "Let me speak in some sort of tone with my voice, and I'm gonna use all these big words." That's not the tone he's talking about. The intelligent tone that the prophet is talking about is religion. Anytime I've gotten into and this is what I learned from our national Grand Sheikh Jelani Bey. Anytime I get into an encounter with these people, the only thing out of my mouth should be religion, 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 religion. Because why? They cannot infringe on your religious practices, Moors. This why the prophet turned it from a civic organization to a religious organization, because he understood the power behind moving religiously, something that we've yet to master and understand, right? We're a theocracy. We're not a democracy. We're not a republic. We're not a monarchy. We are a theocratic government, meaning our nation, our society is ruled by laws according to our God through our holy prophets. Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, and the last prophet in these days and times, the honorable prophet Noble Drew Ali. So when he asked me these questions, everything was religious out my mouth. So he said, "So okay, you did okay." He said, "All right, cool, cool, cool." Then he said this. He said, "Well, what happened in Manchester, in Connecticut, with a case?" Then he said, "You got pulled over." I said, "Yep, I was pulled over in Manchester, Connecticut." I said, "They actually violated my rights because they pulled me over. They made me tow my car and they took the plate. They stole religious property, and we had a federal case against them. We dropped the case because they dropped the charges, and they never pursued any charges anyway, but they never returned the property. So we filed a case against them. We just didn't pursue it on them. But if you go to Connecticut and you look up some of the federal case, you're gonna see my name up there. I had a few of them. I just never pursued it because it's a lot of work trying to sue these people. I'm a very busy dude. I have my own business that I run. I'm a minister of a whole temple. You know what I'm saying? I'm the second in command. I was in charge of creating my own temple out in Connecticut. I'm still in charge of doing that here in Ohio. It's a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Um, he said, "Okay, cool, no problem." He said, "But listen, in the state of New Jersey, you can't drive with no license, registration, or insurance." So he said, "What I suggest that you do is I suggest that you call somebody so they could come give you a ride and you could tow your car." Then he said, "I'm gonna give this back to you, but we're not gonna sit around and watch you." I said, "Oh, okay, sir." Soon as they pulled off, I pulled off right behind them. because that was his way. And he, to be honest, I don't remember the guy, the policy enforcer's name, but he gestured to to his uh his um his video cam when he said that. He handed me back my stuff. He said, "Look, this is what you got to do." He said, I suggest that you do this. Call somebody to come get you, and so they could drive you and tow your car. He said, "But we're not gonna sit here. We're not gonna sit here and watch you." And he pointed and gestured to his video joint. So I said, "Oh, he giving me a window." And you got to understand, the police, some municipal police officers, but mostly all state troopers, mostly all the state troopers know this. The municipal police is where we have a problem, because state troopers are used to they're used to seeing foreign plates sometimes, because there's foreign dignitaries and foreign nationals that have their vehicles, especially in New York, have their vehicles, because that's where the United Nations is, have their vehicles with their plates on them in the United States. And there's protocol for dealing with diplomats, right? It's not the same type of protocol as dealing with a US citizen when you stop them. You don't read a diplomat Miranda rights. You have to read him a different set of rights that entail his ambassador or his embassy. So when we use the intelligent tone, because we're not foreign diplomats, as much as certain Moors want to say, "Oh, we're foreign, we Moorish diplomats and da 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 da," we're not. We're a religious society. I'm a minister. But when you use this language with the demonstration of the foreign, because the tag is foreign, in all intents and purposes, we are foreign dignitaries or nationals on this land that we share with the European now. But the intelligent tone and language to convey this, right, is religion. Because why? According to their mandate, their constitution, they have to respect our religion, right? And we're not from some other country. We're from here. So it's not, we're foreign in the sense that we don't share the same corporate jurisdiction as them, but we're not foreign in the sense that we're from Morocco in Africa. Like, although some Moors want to try to use that, that's not the demonstration that our prophet gave us. He didn't give us that demonstration, right? So going back here, so I explained here. I said, recently I had a personal experience that tested this right and reaffirmed our unalienable freedoms. While traveling in a land transport vehicle registered with the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations, I was stopped by the police. They issued charges for driving without a license, no car insurance, and no registration. Yet, through careful invocation of constitutional and case law protections, these charges were ultimately nollied by the court, a victory for our community and our shared understanding of the law, right? Now, and again, I showed you guys, this is the actual court case, and you could look it up. Look, this is the docket number right here, right? It says disposition date. They didn't put the disposition date, but the docket number, y'all that's watching, you can look this up, pull it up, call Connecticut, New Haven, what is it? The GA 23 New Haven. Call them. Say, "Oh, can I get can I get a disposition for docket number N23 NMV 22-01495999S?" See, look, this the difference between me and a lot of these Moors that's online and on the internet talking about a lot of this stuff that they do. They don't have receipts. They may show you videos of when they in court and they in front of the judge talking, and I'm a flesh and blood human being with the right to travel on the land. I ain't have to do none of that. I didn't even have to talk to a judge. Never. In none of my situations where I was pulled, where I was stopped and pulled over, I never had to talk to a judge. Never had to stand in front of my honor, you know, having to explain. I never went that far. They never pursued the case. It was always dropped before I even had to see a judge. Right. Right. And it says the above case took place back in 2022. I was charged with a traffic violation. I explained all of this, right? And that this is also not the only traffic case that I beat in the state of Connecticut either. I just so happen to still have the documentation for this particular case because I uploaded this to the Instagram page, right? I had the other cases too. I had the disposition for the other ones, but they was, you know, they was lost in traveling and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure if I go back to Connecticut and go back to the courthouses where these cases was, I could probably pull them up and get those too. Right. So I said the question becomes, if I were doing something so illegal slash unlawful, why would the court nolly the charges and allow me to proceed back on the road with these violations? Because the normal procedure to get back on the road would be to pay a fine, which I didn't have to pay, register the vehicle, insure the vehicle, and get my driver's license reinstated before I'll be able to get back on the road. Yet I was able to proceed to put my land transport back on the road without having to do any of this. And it wasn't like I had to put it back on the road. They This particular case, they never told the car. He gave me the ticket and let me go on about my way and was like, deal with it in court. So I was still traveling. Matter of fact, I pulled up to the courthouse in that very land transport when I had to go to court and walked out of there with the disposition and went back on my merry way. And I've traveled, and in the National Grand Sheik, he has his car, his vehicle is his land transport is registered the same way. He got the same type of tag on his. We travel up and down the East Coast to Philadelphia, Baltimore, North Carolina. We done been up and down that road in his land transport. Been stop. Matter of fact, we was going to a particular meeting, and I was driving. I was a little tired. I was kind of swerving in and out. Trooper got behind me. I, put his lights on, pulled us over. We had to explain ourselves. But when he pulled us over, we rolled the windows down. First thing he saw in the car was two Moorish Americans, fezzes on, Moorish garb. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't dressed like, and it's not to say that, you can't dress with regular street clothes on, because not every time you're going to be in your Moorish garb, although in the perfect world, you should always be donned in your Moorish garb because you want to separate yourself from the average Negro, right? We can't change the color of our skin. So if you walking around as a Moor and you got on street clothes, they're going to assume you're a regular Negro. You a regular street dude. But when you have your Moorish garb on, that's the thing that's going to separate you. You're going to say, oh, this guy is different. Something different about him. You know what I'm saying? And I said, this is because of the autonomy and power of our right to travel as Moorish Americans when executed properly and in line with our religious doctrine and teachings. Right? My personal experience, a case study. Right? During the encounter with the law enforcement, I was charged with these three things. And by asserting my rights and leveraging the protections of the ministry, I had all charges nollied by the court. Legal strategy, documentation. I presented my land transport ID, national identification card, ministry registration, and tags in place. Right? Case law and constitutional rights. I cited precedents affirming my right to travel and religious freedom. I didn't necessarily recite any like case law or anything like that. Right? I just let them know, look, I'm a minister. This vehicle is used for, ministerial purposes. I told them, matter of fact, I'm on missionary duty right now. And that's what I tell them. I used to have flyers and stuff in my car. I would hand them a flyer. You want a flyer? You join our calls every Friday and learn about our nationality and birthrights. This is what I do. I was on my way from a meeting down here with some of the Moors. And I'm on my way back to Connecticut, traveling to the temple. You know what I'm saying? We just had another brother join. Brother Vincent Hunter L. Islam More Peace. Welcome to the call. We've been on for about an hour, so you kind of missed a little bit, but it is being recorded. This will be uploaded to YouTube. But I was just showing the brothers my particular case that I had when I was stopped in our, what we call our land transport. We don't call it a car, motor vehicle, automobile. We call it a land transport, and we have a ministry, right? So we have what's called the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations. It's a religious trust corporation underneath our temple. And this is how we travel. So this demonstration is not it's not a sovereign citizen type demonstration. This is the right to travel from the Moorish perspective. So again, as you notice on the screen, this is what our tag looks like. This was my car. I had a 2000 and I forget what year it was. I think it was a 2009, 2010 Acura TL. This is our tag that I had on my car on my land transport at the time, and this is what uh, our land transport ID looks like, right? So it says Moorish American National, custodian, Minister Akeem Bey, myself, the year, I was a 2008 year, make, model, color, type, da 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 da, all of that on the card, right? And I was breaking down to the brothers my particular case, which you can see right here on the screen. This is a certified copy of the disposition of my case that I had back in 2022 when I was pulled over, and they charged me with the first count right here is they said that I made a right turn on red when I wasn't supposed to. The second count is operating an unregistered motor vehicle. The third count is illegal operation of a motor vehicle without minimal insurance. And then this last count was operating the motor vehicle without a license. And as you can see here that I have highlighted in red, it says Nolle, Nolle. And then up here for each other count, see it says count number one, count number two, count number three. It says Nolle, Nolle, Nolle. So and then what a Nolle is a Latin term which essentially means to stop prosecuting the case. So they didn't prosecute the case. They didn't. It got dismissed, and they just never charged me, and they just they let me go back on the road. And under any other circumstance, if you're caught driving without a license, and again, so let me say this too: having the plate and all the documentation and everything done properly, how I also explained to them that we actually have a process to take the vehicle out of the jurisdiction of the DMV, because most of these vehicles are registered to the state DMV. And this is why most people have a problem exercising this right to travel, because the property, which is the car, is normally still registered to the DMV. And even if it's not registered anymore, they haven't done what's necessary to take the VIN number out of the system. We have a process for that, right? This is what separates us from a lot of what else is going on out there. And then we place it under our jurisdiction called the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations, which is our DMV for our members under our temple, right? All under the auspices of religion, because religion is protected by the First Amendment. And we're not a 50 a 501c3 organization, right? We never applied for a tax exempt status from the IRS, because that's what a 501c3 is. It's a tax exempt application that you have to get from the IRS to be recognized as tax exempt, but you still have to report to the IRS. We're not that stat. We're a 508c1a type religious organization, meaning we're a de jure religious corporation, which means by nature we are non-tax obligated. We don't report to the IRS. We don't report to the Secretary of State, and we are on file with the Secretary of State as an active religious society and corporation. And when you look us up, there's no principal, there's no agent, there's no address, there's nothing there. It just says the name of the corporation, where it is, and as a business, as a religious, and it says active. That's it. Everything else is private with us, because the only thing in this country that's private is religion, to be honest. Like, you could set up a family trust and this irrevocable, revocable trust. You could do all this type of stuff, but you still that only takes care of seemingly private. Like, it makes you what's the word I'm looking for? It removes sort of like the liability. So, you're not like, normally you're not out front kind of thing, right? The trust owns the property, but this is a religious corporation is a trust anyway, because it can own property, it can hold, sell, convey, mortgage, any type of property, whether real or personal, right? But again, they stop prosecuting. Generally, a Nolle is a favorable outcome and results in the eventual dismissal of the charges against you. Nolle procurari is a Latin phrase which directly translates to not to wish to prosecute, right? A Nolle procurari, prosecute, however you say it, I'm not Latin, is a legal notice of or entry of record that the prosecutor or plaintiff, because you can bring charges too, has decided to abandon the prosecution or lawsuit right? So the prosecutor abandons the prosecution, and a plaintiff would abandon a lawsuit. So they abandon the case because what I so this woke me up, and I was telling them more everybody on the call about the situation before was that oh, he dropped off. Um, and see again, this is so like I explained to y'all before. This is what happens when people want this information, and we give it to them, and we let them know like how we do this is religious. They tune out. They just tune out because people have this adverse understanding about what religion is. But there's nobody that I know that can tell me or show me where they beat four cases like this. And I'm the type of person I'm gonna go with what works. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not a thing like, oh, I'm gonna use this to my no, it's what works. It's in the law, it's plain as can be. You know what I'm saying? Like the First Amendment to the Constitution says what it says, and it is what it is. And this is what happens. You can show people in black and white the evidence and explain it to them exactly how you went about doing it. And because it's religious in nature, they're gonna tune out. But I like that because this is a vetting process. This is not for everybody. And it's good that it's not for everybody. I like the fact that when people jump on and we start talking the way we talk, they get off because this not for you because they would be the type of person that would take this and do something goofy, right? I'm not as a Grand Sheik, and I'm the co-director of the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigation. So I'm second in command to the ministry that issues these plates and IDs for land transports. I'm not going to put you in a position to be able to get on the road and exercise this same type of rights because what's going to happen is you're going to get pulled over, which this is what I wanted to say. Just because you have all of this stuff in place doesn't mean you won't get stopped. It doesn't mean some goofball cop won't get behind you and say, I don't recognize that plate. I'm gonna pull you over and he's gonna do what he do. But you have to know how to stand the fire. Because the prophets, they say that the prophet Noble Drew in our oral statement said, when the fire comes, I'm gonna be your water. So he never said that the fire not gonna come, right? The fire gonna come. So somebody else just dropped off too. It is what it is. The fire is gonna come, but this intelligent tone and how to speak and how to convey what you're doing is what is the water that's going to save you. It's going to put that fire on. All right. So let's continue. All right. So number three mentions the RFRA argument, right? Which is RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, right? And it said, I demonstrated how the state's requirements burden my religious practice without a compelling interest. So let me pull this up right now because you got a lot of Moors out there. They talk about when they get in trouble, they ask the judge, are you an Article 3 judge? I need Article 3 jurisdiction. Article 3 jurisdiction, right? Let me show y'all something right now. Let me show you what gets you Article 3 jurisdiction. Let me show you how you enforce Article 3 jurisdiction real quick. Um, okay, so it's 42 USC 2000 BB, right? 42 USC 2000 BB. This is the law that shuts them down. And every state has a similar law. I forget what Connecticut's was off the top, right? But this is what it says. It says government. Now, remember, this is free exercise of religion protected. Free exercise, right? So to freely exercise Your religion, protect it, right? It says in general, government shall not substantially burden a person's exercise of religion, even if the burden results from a rule of general applicability, except as provided in subsection B. So there is an exception to this, and I'm gonna get to this. But what this section A is saying is that the government cannot substantially burden me, burdening somebody means, you hindering them, holding them up, or stopping them from doing something. They cannot do this, right? They can't burden your exercise of religion, even if that burden results from a rule of general applicability. What's a general applicable rule? You got to have a driver's license. You got to have a birth certificate. You got to have a social security card. These are general rules of applicability because these are rules that generally apply to people in the public. Because why? Mostly everybody has a birth certificate, social security card, driver's license, and all these different instruments. But there's no law on the books that says you are required to have these things. If you want to drive a motor vehicle, because the term motor vehicle is a term that is governed under the Department of Motor Vehicle codes and all that, then yeah, you got to have a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle. This is why we don't register our property as motor vehicle. We register under our temple as a land transport, reserving our rights. But it says except as provided in subsection B. So here are the exceptions, and I'm gonna break this down. It says the government may. So listen to the difference. It says government shall not up here. So this is a mandate. You cannot, you shall not. The exception where it says government may means that there's discretion involved. They can always exercise. This is why I say follow the prophet and use the intelligent tone. Learn how to, everything is religious with us, right? It says they may substantially burden a person's exercise of religion only if it demonstrates that application of the burden to the person, number one, is in furtherance of a compelling government interest. What does that mean? So, if they may burden you, it has to fit these criteria. Number one, it has to be in furtherance of a compelling government interest. What does that mean? It means there has to be an interest of the government involved. What does that mean? It means that there has to be a contract somewhere. This is why when they stop you or pull you over or do any of these type of things, they want that name that's attached to the social security card and the birth certificate. That's why I said when the police asked me, Mr. Bay, is this the name that you was born with? Yes, sir. According to my religion, I was born again. You Christian, right? When you get baptized, ain't you born again in the name of Jesus? Yeah, that's because when we convert, that old self dies essentially. So there's no connection to that no more anymore. So this is why they want that name, because that name, when they plug it into their computer system, is going to pop up that person that is under their jurisdiction. And now they have a compelling government interest. Or they're going to run the VIN number on the car and see if it comes back as registered to their DMV, which gives them a compelling government interest. Does it make sense? Right? Does it make, give me a thumbs up or okay in the chat if this makes sense to you. Right? The next is that the application of the burden to the person has to be the least restrictive means of furthering the compelling government interest. So least restrictive means like um if they have the discretion to let you go, they should let you go. Like if I could just issue you a ticket and let you go on about your way, that's what they should do. They shouldn't be arresting you, doing all this extra stuff, because that's not the least restrictive means, right? So again, the exception only happens if there is if there's a contract. This goes back to what we're taught. in chapter 48, verse 6, that we are not to amalgamate. And remember the definition for amalgamate means to mix companies. This is why we're not supposed to contract with them. Because even if you change your name to a Moorish name, and then you say you go get a name change through the probate court, and then you go to the DMV and get your ID with your Moorish, not they have jurisdiction now because you just entered back into the system with that name and is under their jurisdiction. So it don't matter if you got a bay on the end. That's not what saves you. What saves you is not contracting with these people in that way that gives them jurisdiction over your person or your property. Your vehicle is your property. It's your property. The moment you register it to the DMV, it's no longer you no longer have rights to it. You've pledged it to the state. Just like when you get that birth certificate for your child, that social security number, you're now pledged to the state. The state got jurisdiction. That's why the DCF, Child Protective Services, and all that can interfere in your business because they know that for that child, we got a document on file for him. Our children, when they're born in our temples, we don't encourage our members to go get birth certificates from the state. We issue our own certificates of live birth that child could use, and you could use that to put your child in school. Your child does not need a social security number to go to school, right? Especially a school that's not private or chartered. State schools, like, you don't need these things because they can't burden the free exercise of your religion. So back to that's the religious. Oh, I didn't even I almost forgot about Article 3. We know how all the Moors, all the sovereign citizens and stuff, they asking these judges, are you an Article 3 judge? I need Article 3 jurisdiction. Well, let me show you where Article 3 jurisdiction is enforced. Section C, judicial relief. A person whose religious exercise has been burdened in violation of this section may assert that violation as a claim, right, civil, or defense, criminal, in a judicial proceeding and obtain appropriate relief against a government. So we can obtain, according to their own law, appropriate relief through a claim or defense in a judicial proceeding against a government. Now, when we look up the term government here, it means a branch, department, agency, instrumentality, and official or other person acting under color of law of the United States or a covered entity. So this applies to their branches, their departments, their agencies, their instrumentalities, meaning their cities and everything underneath them, and their officials acting under color of law of the United States. This applies to them. This is why this part of the law is so powerful, right? And it says standing. Everybody want to talk about your standing. What's your what's one of the main things when it comes to jurisdiction? Standing, right? Subject matter, blah 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 blah. Standing to assert a claim or defense under this section shall be governed by the general rules of standing under what? Article 3 of the Constitution. Everybody screaming Article 3, Article 3. This is where you get standing for Article 3 by exercising your religious freedoms. This is why we register the property the way we register the vehicle, automobile, the way we register it under our Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations, put our own tag on it, issue our own IDs for it, and we're able to obtain this type of relief against them because this is what we stand on. All right. Hope this is clear. Again, we had somebody jump on. Now they jump right off. Ah man, it's funny. Um, let's see. Let me go back. Again, the outcome, right? The court recognized the legitimacy of my jurisdiction under the ministry and dismissed the charges. Right? The tags and stuff. So understanding the right to travel and religious freedom, right? The right to travel is not a privilege granted by the government, but a fundamental right protected by the Constitution. Several U.S. Supreme Court cases have upheld this principle. Now, write these cases down and look them up yourself, right? The first one is Shapiro versus Thompson, 394 USC 1618, 1969, where the court recognized that the right to travel is a fundamental constitutional right which cannot be arbitrarily interfered with by the state, right? Meaning arbitrarily means like, just because they want to. Again, they need a compelling government interest. We don't give them that compelling government interest though. We're taught, like I said, to not contract with them. Number two is Kent versus Duels, 357 US 116, 1958, where the court ruled that the right to travel is a part of the liberty of which a citizen cannot be deprived without due process of law. Chicago Motor Coach versus Chicago, 337 Illinois 200, 1929. This was during the time of the Prophet Noble Ali. He actually passed form that same year. I think it's in July. It says the court stated that the use of the highways for travel and transportation is not a mere privilege, but a common and fundamental right of all citizens. Hale versus Hinkle, 2001 U.S. 43, 1906. Citizens retain the right to contract or not to contract free from coercion, right? These rulings highlight the difference between engaging in commerce on the roads, such as commercial trucking, which may require licensure, and traveling for personal, non-commercial purposes, a distinction that Moorish Americans must emphasize when exercising their rights. Now, what I mean by that is, as Moorish American Muslims, under the jurisdiction of the Prophet Noble Ali in our temples, when we're on the road doing any type of business, it's not that we have to say like, I'm traveling for personal, non-commercial purposes. It's already established. If everything is where it needs to be, your status or identity and all that is correct, you got your ID, et cetera, et cetera. You're not gonna, you're not compromising yourself, giving away your state name. That the vehicle that you're in or automobile is registered to the Ministry of Land Transport Navigation or the religious trust. All of this doesn't have to even be explained because by nature, you in the capacity that you are in your person and the capacity that you are in the property already conveys to them that you're traveling for non-commercial purposes. Why? Because any business related to the temple is already non-commercial, meaning it's non-tax obligated because of the nature of the organization. We fall outside of the commercial restrictions, right? Because we're a non-for-profit organization. Even though we may make finance doing what we're doing, the finance is not personal finance. This is why we have this a certain type of documentation that we can issue you as a member that explains this right, which would make you as a member tax exempt from self-employment taxes according to the IRS. Form 4163. Right. So why the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations is not operating in commerce? So again, let me break this down. Why our ministry does not operate in commerce is because religious corporations, especially those organized under 508c1a, are distinct from for-profit corporations or taxable entities. This is a fact, right? Their foundational purpose is religious, spiritual, or cultural, not commercial gain, right? So again, we don't have to explain this. The nature of the ID that you present, the property, how it's registered, already conveys this to them. You just have to, when you speak, you have to make sure that this aligns with all of this already. Because if you say something goofy, they're gonna know, oh, you're not really on your dean for real. Right? This distinction is critical when addressing whether activities conducted under a religious corporation, such as those managed by the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations, can be labeled as operating in commerce, right? I read an article on, and I should have saved it, and we should have did a brief presentation on it. But I had this article of a guy. He was selling like marijuana. Like he was like it was either like a guy or a lady, and she was making a lot of money. I think this was out in California or something like that. And she had grow houses and stuff all over the state. And she was distributing it, and she was doing it and saying that it was religious, right? That it was sacrament, it was religious, da 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 da, da, right? Those folks ran down on her, arrested her, and charged her, and she got convicted. Why? Because they came to find out that the organization that she established to do this was not, in fact, a religious organization. Had she been operating this thing as a true bona fide religious organization corporation, she probably would have beat those charges. Now, I'm not encouraging nobody to go do nothing crazy. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Um, it says the defining characteristic of commerce is the exchange of goods or services for profit. Religious corporations, number one, operate without a profit motive, focusing instead on the fulfillment of religious and charitable objectives. And number two, they do not engage in commercial activity as defined by federal and state laws regulating for profit enterprises. So, again, this is why what we do as a religious corporation is so different than what most other corporations are doing, and why their operations fall under the taxable status, right? We can operate any type of business that we want under our temple, and it's still non-profit, not for profit status, right? It's still considered not for profit status, right? By nature, right? So since the Ministry of Land Transportation and Navigations is organized as a religious corporation, its primary function is to facilitate the travel and transportation needs of its private members as a spiritual or cultural practice. This inherently removes the ministry's activities from the legal definition of commerce. Do y'all understand this? When members of the ministry use vehicles registered under the religious corporation's jurisdiction, number one, they are exercising their constitutional right to travel because we've reserved this right. We don't waive this right by registering it to the state, which now puts you under their jurisdiction and makes you liable to the traffic laws. Now, this doesn't mean be out there driving crazy, willy-nilly, doing donuts, speeding, skirting off in front of the police and not using your turn signal, because we follow the safety laws of the road, right? Which is basically, don't be speeding because that's not safe. Don't just be taking lights and running stop signs and blowing stop and doing all this stuff, because that's a hazard on the road. You could potentially hurt somebody else or hurt yourself, damage your property, damage somebody else's property. We still want to respect the road. This is not a license or authority to just go out there and be doing what you want to do, because you can still find yourself in hot water or find yourself in the fire. And hopefully, and if that's the situation for you, hopefully everything is what it needs to be. And, what we got going on could be the water to help put out that fire for you. You know what I'm saying? Number two is the vehicle and associated activities remain within the private domain of the ministry, not the public or commercial domain governed by the DMV or Department of Transportation. The Ministry of Land Transport and Navigation issues its own tags, plates, and IDs, which, number one, establishes the vehicle as private property operating under the ministry's religious jurisdiction. Again, this is why when they pull you over, the first thing they notice is the tag on the car, and then they're going to ask you for your license and registration. All right. Again, when they ask me for my license, registration, all that, and I hand them the documentation, it already shows, look, you don't have subject matter jurisdiction here. You could do what you want to do. You could issue the ticket, but I'm gonna take it up with the judicial department. And like I said, in any instance that I've had an encounter in this regard, it's been dismissed. I've never had to pay a fine, never was forced to register the car, get in the insurance, go get a license, none of that. Again, that's against my religion. And you can't burden the free exercise of my religion without a compelling government interest. What is your compelling government interest in this situation? Where's your contract? I don't have a state ID with you. I don't have a driver's license with you. I don't have a birth certificate with you. I don't have a social security card. Now, as a convert into this jurisdiction, I did use a name. I did go by a name that had all those different instruments. But once I converted, I don't use that name no more. I don't use those instruments. I use my nationality card and anything that's issued from my temple. None of that stuff that's issued from my temple with my religious name on it has any contracts with them. And it's against my religion to give fingerprints, saliva, hair follicle. It's against my religion to do all that. So if you do obtain that some type of way, it was against my, you know, you coerce you. I was sleeping and you did it, and that's a violation of my rights. Because why? Involuntary servitude and slavery is not permitted. What the 14th Amendment say? And that's another argument about the 14th Amendment because it wasn't constitutionally passed either. But um the what you got to understand is that um no 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 14th Amendment, right? So it says no state shall make or enforce laws. No. What 14th Amendment text? They won't just give me the text of the actual amendment. Where is the 14th Amendment? Oh, this is it. What's up, buddy? Hold on. Wait, okay. All right, here we go. Oh, excuse me. I'm looking up the 14th. I meant the 13th Amendment. Oh, my bad. 13th Amendment. I'm tripping. That's why I'm like, hold on. This don't read like the 13th Amendment here. So it says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, wherever the party has been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to its jurisdiction. So it says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, right? But the opposite of that is voluntary servitude. So if involuntary servitude is off the table, the only thing that's back on the table is voluntary servitude. So this is why we don't voluntarily do these things. We don't voluntarily just, you know, give away our rights and stuff like that. Because that's what again puts you, under their jurisdiction, right? Um again, the issuing of our own tags, plates, and IDs. The second thing that it does is clearly indicates that the vehicle is not engaged in activities subject to commercial regulation, such as freight hauling or ride sharing. Right now, if we did have a particular business that Moorish Americans under our jurisdiction would give each other rides and stuff like that, it still wouldn't fall under that. Or you had a business with a truck and the truck was registered to the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations and you was hauling different stuff. It still wouldn't because it's business of the ministry, right? Y'all understand what I'm saying? The Religious Freedom Restoration Act and other legal principles safeguard religious corporations from undue government interference. These protections, one, prevent the government from imposing a substantial burden on religious practices unless there's a compelling government interest, again, meaning that there's a contract, and recognize that private religious corporations, by their nature, are not engaged in commerce unless explicitly stated otherwise, right? Um, why do we not register with the DMV? Right. So as Moorish Americans, we either decline to register our vehicles with the DMV or exercise our right to remove vehicles from DMV jurisdiction for the following reasons. Number one is avoiding burdens on religious freedom. Requiring registration imposes a substantial burden on our religious beliefs as it forces us into a contractual relationship with the state, contrary to our obligation under the Treaty of Peace and Friendship and the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, as well as chapter 48, verse 6. I'm gonna amend this book, this ebook, but I'm gonna put that in there as well. Right. Another reason for lack of compelling interest. The state's interest in regulating travel applies to those engaged in commerce, not private individuals exercising their fundamental rights. Without a voluntary contract, remember, involuntary servitude is illegal, right? What does it say? What's the language? Shall not exist within the United States. So, but if involuntary servitude doesn't exist, what's the other thing that does exist? Voluntary servitude, which is a contract, right? Without a voluntary contract, there's no jurisdiction over our personal travel. Assertion of autonomy. By registering vehicles through the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations, we affirm our jurisdiction and protect our rights under the First Amendment and international law. This is like this big. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You know, people. The thing is, if what I was saying had no religious tone to it, everybody'd be on this call. If I was saying, look, you could do all this and be safe, just put it under a trust and you know do this and do that, everybody be on this call. But that's cool with me because I'm not trying to be held liable for nobody doing no goofy stuff and then getting in trouble and be hitting me up like, man, Grand Sheik King, you know, more, you was lying, man. That stuff you talk about wasn't working, man. I'm hemmed up right now. I need all the help I could get, and I ain't trying to pay you a dime to help me and be all jammed up in a situation doing because you did something goofy. I would never be on this call telling y'all about how to do any of this type of stuff if I haven't been through it myself. I'm not that type of person, especially when it comes to this type of stuff, because this is real deal. To be honest, it's a lot of people, it's people that have tried to exercise this very right and have ended up in a coffin, in a pine box for this, playing with these folks. I would never do nothing like this if I didn't feel completely safe in doing it. And I would never instruct anybody on doing it if I felt like my demonstration would put you in jeopardy and harm's way. I used to travel in my land transport with this same plate, my IDs and everything with my child, my son. I used to pick him up from his mom, pick him up from his school, drop him off to his mom, drop him off to school, take him here, take him there. We used to travel to New York, everything back and forth, doing in this same fashion. I would never travel with my child in a in this fashion, in this capacity, if I didn't trust this thing to the utmost and to the fullest. So I definitely wouldn't be online showing people this demonstration if it wasn't something that I've been through and that I trusted. Because again, like I said, there's been people that have tried to exercise this right to travel and have ended up in a pine box, put to death by the police trying to do this. So this is why I give my demonstration the way I give my demonstration, because I know it saved my life. I don't have to pay taxes on my vehicle every year. I don't have to pay emissions. I don't have to registration fees and all this, that, and the third. I don't have to do none of that type of stuff, right? Anybody got any questions before we move forward? We got another caller on L. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, Ellie. But welcome to the call. We almost about to wrap it up now. We got about 10 minutes left, but appreciate you jumping on. If anybody got any questions, drop the questions in the chat. Our Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations and its protection of Moorish travelers, right? Registration of vehicular property. When you register your vehicle with the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations, you effectively remove it from the jurisdiction of the DMV and place it under the ministry's protection. Now, this is not completely true. Again, I'm gonna amend this document a little bit. There is something else that you need to do with the vehicle if it's under the DMV's jurisdiction. There's a specific document that you have to use that removes it from under their jurisdiction, right? We have, we don't have you have to request the document, but our organization, this is how we're able to, request the document. Okay, got distracted, Kim. It's okay. Appreciate you for joining anyway. And the call is recorded. It will be up on our YouTube page, probably later on tonight or tomorrow. So you can always check it out there when you get a chance. So definitely appreciate you. So again, this means no state contracts. You are not bound by state requirements for licensing, registration, or insurance when you place the vehicle under the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations after you've taken it out of the DMV, the jurisdiction of the DMV. That's an important step in the process. Again, a lot of these people that have run into a lot of the issues behind trying to exercise their right to travel, the vehicle is still registered to the DMV. And even if it's not registered, it's still in their system because they haven't done what they needed to do to take it out of that jurisdiction, right? There's a specific document that you need to use to take it out of the jurisdiction, and then we have our own process to put it under our jurisdiction. It is what it is, right? Authoritative autonomy. Your vehicle operates under the jurisdiction of the ministry, which adheres to Moorish cultural and religious laws, right? So, or you can say cultural and customary laws. Again, this demonstration on the right to travel is a Moorish demonstration from our Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations underneath our temple. So this is why, if you're listening to this call, it's the reason why, I'm talking the way I'm talking, and I'm telling you guys exactly how I'm telling you to do things, because, us in particular, myself, I will speak for myself. When I've exercised my right to travel as a Moorish American under our temple's jurisdiction, I've always gotten a favorable reply if I've run into an issue. Again, I've never had to even see a judge. Like, again, this does not mean that you won't be stopped. The only situation or scenario where we won't be stopped by them is when there are more vehicles registered to our Ministry of Land with our tags on them riding around this different states in the nation. And they get accustomed to seeing us, and then we develop a back and forth relationship with them where a person like myself can talk to their chief of police, the mayor, the governors, and sit them down and say, hey, look, we understand what y'all got going on, but these are the laws that you guys have on your books. These are our laws and how we operate as a nation of people under our theocracy. You guys are a democracy. Your constitution say you're a republic, but you guys have your governmental framework. We have our governmental framework. You have your laws on the books. We have our laws on the books. We're not breaking the law. The car needs to be registered, right? It's not registered to your DMV. It's registered to our Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations. We have to have some sort of ID or whatever. We have that. It's not called a driver's license, but we have a land transport identification card. Like everything that you guys have, we have. We're not breaking the law. It's just not under your control, for lack of a better term. And until that relationship is established And it's understood according to the treaty, to be honest, like the treaty already spells these things out, but we have to convey to them that we are a Moorish government, because the treaty does not apply to you if you're not part of a Moorish government, right? Like if you don't identify as a Moor, which is what the treaty explicitly says, you have to, use the term Moor. The Moors that were in existence at that time were part of a theocracy. They were part of the at that time it was the empire of Morocco, really, but they were under the jurisdiction of the Sultanate, which is a theocratic government. It was a sultanate. We are under the theocratic government. We don't have a sultanate. We just part of our temple, our prophet. We have a prophet. Um, Issuance of tags, plates, and IDs. The ministry provides tags and plates. Again, these serve the same legal purpose as DMV issued plates for state citizens, but are recognized under our religious jurisdiction for private members, because that's what we are. As members of this organization, which is not a 501c3, again, or a 508c1a de jure religious entity, right? A religious trust, a religious corporation, whatever you want to call it. Our members are private. Why? Because our members, their names are not part of the public registries. We don't encourage our members to get on voter registration. If you want to go down there and vote, go vote under your state name. Don't use your converted name, your Moorish name, and go get a driver's license and get a state ID and go start contracting again with the Moorish name. Because now you just put yourself back in the public. You're no longer private. Right? Why is that? Because again, Akeem Bey, they type that into their system. That name is not gonna come up as being part of their system. There's no social security number associated with it. There's no ID that was ever registered with their DMV or their state. There's none of that. No, none of those contracts exist there. This is why they can't say that I'm a citizen, that you're a citizen. You're a private person. You know what I'm saying? How does being a Moor affect employment, e.g., direct deposit and payroll? What about needing a passport to travel? So, um, as far as like employment is concerned, again, you would have to take, once you convert, you get your documentation. You get an ID, you get other documentation that we can issue to you. You have to pay a fee for it. But it's like you get something called a baptismal certificate, which serves as like a birth certificate. You get your ID. You get a name change certificate as well, right? You have to pay for that too. But those documents you can use with your HR department, and you just submit them to your HR department with a cover letter. Explaining to them, look here, but because of religion, we cite the necessary laws from the federal level to the state level, whatever state you're in, and let them know that you undergone a religious name change. This is the name that you're under. This is what you're identifying as, and uh, that you want your wages or what you make to be deposited to the temple, right? Because you have to, and then we as a because now they won't take all that FICA, Social Security, state tax, all of that stuff is not, it's not going to come out of your taxes. It's gonna get deposited. Now under Trump, I think under Trump you could do 100% of your gross, right? I think it's like 50% now. So, it is what it is. Trump is going back into office. Hopefully he reinstitutes this. You can get 100% of your wages deposited to the temple, and the temple will then cut you your check free of taxes. We haven't necessarily done that recently, but we don't take, you know, we don't take anything out of it to do that for you. You know what I'm saying? We've thought about doing that, taking like a small fee, like maybe $25 just to cover, this because again, you got to think about it. If you're making $1,000, if you're grossing $1,000 a week or every 2 weeks, they're taking like $300, $400 off the top of yours out of taxes. All we want is 25 as a temple, 50 as a temple. You know what I'm saying? Um, so yeah, and then as far as a passport to travel, you know, uh myself right now, I'm working on something with TSA. And it's different, like, as if to travel, I would say, because it's hard, because domestically, I've taken flights, right? I've caught flights out of various airports without having state ID or a passport or anything like that. I just use my nationality card and a few other documents. You need two other forms of like identification that match, because you don't have a scannable ID for them. So they take you through an extra process. But now, and I honestly think it's because I've been doing this for a couple of years, they're changing it, right? They're coming with this real ID thing, and then now the airports are not taking that. They're doing a screening process directly through TSA. So they'll call TSA from where they are to the TSA headquarters and try to verify who you are. And you can only do this a certain amount of times before they run out of questions that they can ask you. And I've been denied, which is very surprising. I thought about pressing the issue and doing a case, because it's not that I didn't have my ID or that I lost my ID and I have to go through this process. I have a religious ID. Now you guys are burdening the free exercise of my religion. And I think I'm going to pursue a case for this, right? And which would help set precedent for our members that, listen, domestically, we don't need to do all that. When you see us coming and it's for religious purposes, let us through. Or we gonna sue you every time. I don't care if you TSA, I don't care who you are, right? So um, to avoid that though, because the situation that I'd missed my flight. I had paid for the ticket. They made me miss the flight. I had to catch another flight from a different airport, pay for that ticket. They put me through the whole process again, but I went through. They let me through that time. Um, but that's still a burden, and I didn't get compensated for the money that I spent on the flight that I missed. So this is something that we have to tackle, right? And I think it's like one of the last biggest things that we have to tackle besides the employment issue and stuff like that. And it's not really even an employment issue. Um, what I would say though is, if you are going to travel, either I wouldn't recommend getting a passport in your Moorish name, right? Because you asked, can you get a federal passport being a Moor? I wouldn't recommend that. It would probably be hard because you would have to use your Moorish issued documents, and they're going to probably give you a little bit of a hard time, even though they should just accept it because of religion, right? They have to respect your religion. But if you have a passport in the name that you were born in already and stuff like that, I just say just use that for now until we get this thing figured out. Again, we've been at this for a couple of years now. This is the only year that I've had an issue, like the ending of like last year. Like, this is where I've had this issue when I've caught domestic flights and they asking for this, and then they want, it's because before it was just all I would have to do is present my ID and two bank cards, because I have a Chime account and a Cash App account with my Moorish name on it. There's a way that we do that too, and that was sufficient enough. I would just give them the two forms, the two bank cards, my bank statement sometimes that had my name, the address, and the same name and address on the ID, and I was good. I get through TSA, get on a flight. But now they're saying they're doing away with that. Oh, we don't take two forms. We got to take you down. We got to call and verify you through TSA. They got to call TSA, ask you questions. And I've been through that so many times that they say they run out of questions to ask you and they can't verify you, which this is a problem. So, like I said, we're in the process. I'm in the process of contacting TSA and you know, uh, getting this straightened out. Um, so like I said, I'm in Ohio. I used to be in Connecticut. I'm not in Chicago. I don't know any bona fide Moorish science temples, right? I don't know any Moorish religious corporations in Chicago that will. I'm pretty sure they'll take you as a member, right? But they don't operate like we do. This conversation that we're having about right to travel, a lot of the Moorish temples and their officials do not agree with us on this. What they'll tell you to do is, once you convert and become a member, they'll tell you go down to DMV, go down to the probate court, get a court name changed through the probate, go to DMV, get your name changed on your ID or your driver's license, and they putting you right back in slavery. They're putting you right back in contract as a Moor now. So this is why we teach when you convert, just leave the old, like if you have an ID or a driver's license in your old name, just leave it. And if you got to use it to open up a bank account or do this, or maybe your car is still registered, just keep that like it is and just do what you got to do. But when you're, moving in other areas and stuff like that, just use your Moorish ID and use your Moorish name and stuff like that. But if you're trying to move like I'm moving, our national grand sheik moves, I'm more than willing to be a part of your chat. Okay, cool. So, at some point, uh, contact me and let me know what's your information. As a matter of fact, yeah, I don't know what your phone number, your name, or your email address is, but however you can do that, get me your name, your phone number and your email address, and I'll get in contact with you and we could discuss further on how you can convert and come under our jurisdiction, and we can discuss things further, how to get your ID, your documentation. Okay, I got you. Hold on, Kevin Russell. Uh, just you could just drop it in there. I'll just write it down. I won't say it out loud. You can either drop your phone number or and you can message me direct. Okay, I got you. You did direct message me. All right, so yeah, so direct message me your email and or your phone number, what I'm saying, and then I'll contact you like tomorrow because we about to end the meeting for now. Okay, cool. So that's your email. Make sure I got it right. Okay, I got it. Boom, 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 at Gmail. All right, cool. I got it. I'll contact you, Kev. We didn't finish the actual document. Again, it's not that much more longer. It's like two more pages. It is for sale up on the website. If you want to purchase the ebook, you can go ahead and do so. Um, and I hope you guys enjoyed the demonstration. We'll be back on Sunday. I might send out an email for people to join. And Sunday's calls are like Sunday school, so we'll kind of go over more of the doctrine. We'll get into like, the Bible, the Quran, our Moorish Holy Quran. It's more spiritual type thing. Friday calls is kind of like I like to deal with, subject matter, um, and stuff like that. Yeah, always appreciate you jumping on too, L. Um, and yeah, you guys want to get in contact with me, I'm on Instagram. This will be up on YouTube tomorrow or later on tonight. And hopefully I'll see you guys on the next call. So for now, we'll go ahead and close out, or I'll go ahead and close out with our Moorish American prayer. This is how we normally close our meetings. We always open and close our meetings like this. Okay, yeah, IG. You can reach out to me on Instagram. That's cool. So, rising to our highest height, facing the east, feet on a 45-degree angle, arms up on a perpendicular, five fingers on the left, two fingers on the right. Repeat after me. Allah,
Allah,
Father of the universe,
Father of the universe,
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
guide,
my guide,
salvation,
and my salvation
and by day,
by night and by day,
Holy Prophet,
through his holy prophet,
Amen.
through Ali. Amen.
All right, peace, y'all.
Peace, Grand Sheik.
More peace.